Okay.
No, spell is
No. Yeah.
All right, so like we said, taxonomy is about classifying. And classifying is basically putting things into groups based on similarities. Okay, and we can do that in lots of different ways, and it's something that we just tend to do as humans is try to look for similar characteristics and group things together in various ways. And that's what taxonomy is. Later on in the unit, we will be learning about the kingdoms, and we're going to use these terms. You have them there for your reference. We'll be defining them later on, but you have that at the front of your notes to refer to. So, like we said earlier, taxonomy is the study of classification. It's the science behind classifying living organisms. Like I said, we do this all the time. For example, if I say tree, you have an idea about what that means. We have a plant made of wood with leaves that can go through photosynthesis. By creating that group we call trees and putting different organisms in it, we can understand that a little bit better. We can understand why all trees are similar to each other and how they're different from other groups. So classifying things into groups helps us understand sort of where these species have come from. We can understand their evolution. We can identify things easier. So we classify things for those reasons. And people have been classifying species for thousands of years, all the way back to ancient Greece. People put things in these categories, tried to group living things in certain ways. The person who we name as most responsible for the system we use today is this guy. Okay? This is Carl Linnaeus. Okay? He was doing his research in late 1700s. That's why he's wearing that powdered wig. You may look familiar from when you see pictures of our founding fathers and so on. But Carl Linnaeus was a naturalist. He studied all sorts of different living species, and he's starting to put them in groups and come up with a system for naming and a system for classifying things. So today he's sort of known as the father of taxonomy because our modern system comes from the work that he started. He even changed his name so that it sounded more Latin, Carolus Linnaeus, from his given name. Carl von Linne. And he came up with a system that we still use today that's called binomial nomenclature. Any Latin scholars in class? Does anyone take Latin?
Does anybody?
Some people take Latin. Yeah, they Latin. You do? No. So yes, we do have Latin in school. Some people take it. But if you didn't know Latin, you know that on the top of your paper you get probably every day in class says nomen. That means name. This word binomial, nomial means having to do with names. From nomen means name. What does the prefix bi mean? Think of this. Think unicycle, bicycle, tricycle. What do the prefixes mean? Gio? Yeah, it means two. So binomial means to name. Nomenclature means a system for naming things. So it's a to-name naming system. In this system that Linnaeus came up with, every species gets a specific, what we call its binomial name, or its scientific name. It's made of two words. For example, probably several of you know, what's the scientific name for the human species? John? No, that's one of the groups, but it's not our species, because there's other things that are mammals. Human species name, yeah?
Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens. Not homeo, not like homeo as in stasis. Homo sapiens. Yeah. It means knowing man. And that's not the name for the species of humans, Homo sapiens. Every species you could think of has a scientific name. You know, out in the courtyard there is a birch tree. It's Betula papyrifera is its scientific name. A sugar maple tree that you might have outside your house is called Acer saccharum. A cat is Felis domesticus. So, I don't know all of them. So, these names, these two-part names, are their binomial scientific names. And we use them for some reasons that we'll talk about in a minute. But they all sound kind of weird because they're all, or mostly, based in Latin. Linnaeus came up with this idea that instead of giving things common names, like cat, or paper birch tree, or sugar maple, we will give them these scientific names using Latin. Does anybody know why you might choose Latin as a language? Anna?
Is this a dead language?
Yeah, what does that mean? You're correct.
It's a what language?
A
Dead.
dead language?
Dead?
You know why we call it a dead
Oh,
language?
I know.
Anna, go ahead.
Because nobody speaks it.
Yeah, there's no country in the world where you would go there and the people are speaking Latin to each other. Okay? Latin is not a language that's used in everyday speech between people. It's still a language and you can still learn it, but it's not spoken as the daily language anymore. And there's a benefit to that. Because a language like English or German or Chinese or any other modern language is constantly changing. New words start to be used, words stop being used, words change in their meaning. But in Latin has a certain set of vocabulary that is what it is, and it's not really changing. So you can sort of count on it to be the same even through time. So that's one reason. Another reason has to do with the fact that nobody speaks is it doesn't sort of favor one region of the world over another. That scientists that are studying certain groups of organisms, if they use the Latin name, they can sort of agree on one name that they will all use. And since nobody speaks it, it doesn't favor people living in North America or people living in Asia or South America. If you chose another language, it would sort of favor one area over another. Joe?
Isn't it like the base of all languages?
Yeah, good point. In that Latin, so some people will say, well, why do you take Latin class? Well, first off, the base of many words. So for example, Latin is also used in anatomy. If you study anatomy, if you're going to be a doctor or a nurse or a physical therapist, you have to take anatomy. All the muscles throughout the body and all the various parts have Latin names that you have to know. Latin is the base for all of the Romance languages. Spanish, Italian, French, Portuguese. These are all based on Latin. They all derived originally from Latin, and therefore by knowing Latin, you can really get a good handle on other languages. So why do we have to give things a name? We had names for them already. We knew this thing is called a pine tree, and this is a dog, and a cat, and a human, and so forth. But oftentimes those names that we give things, we call those the common names, can be misleading. For example, what is that?
Jellyfish.
Jellyfish. Now that name could be misleading because, is it a fish?
No.
It's not. It also does not taste good on toast. So the name itself doesn't seem to make sense. Thanks. See somebody got a fake laugh out of somebody. I just got an eye roll from Jenna.
I don't like this one. Cause it's funny.
Thanks, Jenna.
You know, on toast.
Thanks,
People
yeah.
don't do that.
If you have to explain it, it's not that
Especially if
funny.
you're burnt toast.
Black
That's
toast
a
and
toast.
collar.
Yes, I'm on the horse.
That's a good one.
I'm on the seahorse.
Alright, a seahorse, obviously it's not a horse, it's actually a fish.
Aren't
But
they like that small?
some are small, but some are larger. So the name itself can be misleading. Ringworm. Ringworm is actually a skin infection you can get, but it's not a worm at all. It's caused by a fungus.
Wait. I have.
A starfish.
It's a star.
It's not a fish. It may be shaped like the star, but it's not a fish. It's an echinoderm. So it's in a completely different phylum from a fish. But so these words these names can be misleading. Also, people from various countries obviously have different words. For example, in English we would say cat, in Spanish you would say gato, in French, what is it in French?
Oui, oui.
Oh,
What is
we just learned
It's like
it
chat or
the other
something.
day.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, in different languages, we're talking all about the same animal, but we're all using a different word for it. By using the Latin name and scientific name, Felis domesticus, we can all be using the same name and know that we're referring to the same species. So if you ever watched the Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons,
Yep.
those are both real animals.
They are?
The scientific name for Roadrunner is Geococcix californis. The scientific name for a coyote is Canis latrans. But if you watch the beginning of those cartoons, on the intro section, they're chasing each other, running around, and then they freeze frame it. And what do they put on the bottom?
Their names.
A fake scientific name. They're made up, and they're different from episode to episode, and they're kind of jokes. They're like little jokes that the people that make it throw in. They sound Latin, but they're not their actual scientific names. Some of the ones they've used for the Roadrunner, Accelerati incredibus, Disaperius quickius, Birdius tastius. So they kind of sound Latinish, but it's just a joke. For a coyote, they use Roadrunner digestus, Appetitus giganticus, and Edius birdius. So again, those are just jokes that they look like a scientific name, even though they're not actually their scientific name.
Are those like actual Latin words?
They're made to sound Latin because there are lots of words in Latin and in like US, so they just add that to the words to make them sound kind of Latin. Yes.
I remember on one of the episodes, instead of like saying real name, like coyote, they put stupid.
Oh really?
That was funny.
All right. So yeah, next time you watch that cartoon, keep notice for those scientific names. All right. So when we talk about classification, we group organisms at various levels. We go from very broad levels at the top to more and more specific as we go down this list. The top level, the very broadest, is called domain. And so I'll use humans as an example. So we are in the same domain as every other living organism that has a nucleus in its cells. So for example, humans are in one domain, eukarya, but so are worms and trees and mushrooms. So obviously that's a very broad group, and the things in it are not that closely related, but they do share some similarities. If we go down the next level, this is one you have heard of. Next level is called kingdom. And so you maybe had to learn the kingdoms at some point in elementary school. So we are in the animal kingdom, and that means organisms that they have to eat to get energy. Okay? That is one of the characteristics of animals. So we are in the same group as butterflies, though, and worms and snakes. So it's still a pretty broad category. But we're getting a little bit more specific. And also, as we go down this list, there's fewer and fewer organisms belong to those groups. Below kingdom, we have phylum. Our phylum is Chordata. These are all the vertebrates. Okay, so all the vertebrates are in the same phylum with us. From there, we go to class.
We're in class.
Our class is mammals. So we're together with all the other mammals. So you see we're getting more specific. Then we have order,
How do you know?
family. And then the last two groups are important. They're called the genus and the species. And that's not like me, not genius, but like genus without an I.
That was just
Because I'm
So as we go down,
calm down.
we get fewer and fewer species. They're more closely related. as we go down that list.
Mr. Ross, can I get a drink, please?
So you already have to memorize this list
Oh.
in the proper order, but I'll tell you a couple ways to help you in a minute. So if we look at another example. So here I have seven different species. 7 types of living things. Grizzly bear, black bear, panda, a fox, a squirrel, a snake, and a starfish. So if we look at these and how they're classified, it can help us to understand this. So they're all animals. So that's their kingdom. So again, that's pretty broad. Obviously, grizzly bear and starfish are not that similar to each other. They're not that related, but they are still in the same kingdom. If we go the next layer down into phylum, okay, these are all the animals with backbones. So the starfish is gone because that's an invertebrate. And we're down to fewer organisms, and they're a little bit more closer, but still pretty different from each other. The next group down, now we go into class. This class is Mammalia. These are the mammals. So the snake is gone, that's a reptile. Okay? So now we're getting closer, where all those mammals share a fair number of things in common. If we go down another level further, into order. These are all in the order Carnivora, okay? Meat-eating animals, mammals. Below that, we have family Ursidae. This is the bear family. Okay? So again, now we're getting pretty similar. We have fewer organisms. These are all pretty closely related. One level down, we have genus. These 2 bears are in the genus Ursus. And then we get down to species, and you're down to the left with only one type of living thing. And this is the grizzly bear. Ursus arctos is its scientific name. So as we go down from domain and kingdom down to species, we get more specific and more closely related. Jacob? Joey? What's that? It is, but it's in the family Carnivora. There's some weird things. All right. So to help you remember, yeah, Gio. Quick. So there's a couple ways to help you remember. All right, just go play. To help you remember those groups. 2 sentences, and then I'll show you a video at the end of class that could help. So first off, one sentence you could remember. Now this one is not that memorable, but it works. Dear King Philip came over for great soup. The next one is probably more memorable. It's not very nice though, but we'll keep it up there. Anyway, if this helps you, you can use this sentence.
Dumb kids play catch up.
It's kind of smart. If it helps you remember it, then it's done its job. And again, the first letter of each word stands for one of those groups of classification. Domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So if we list them again from general to specific, what does the D? Raise your hand if you can tell me. What does the D stand for? Which group?
Domain.
Raise your hand, please.
Oh.
Jenna?
Domain.
Yes, domain.
Where do we put that? Oh.
Raise your hand if you can tell me the next level. Yeah?
Kingdom.
Kingdom.
Oh.
How about after that? Cindy? Phylum. Nate?
Class.
Class. Hold on.
Open it.
Chat?
Order, nice.
Order.
That's surprising.
After that? Anna?
Family.
Family. After that, Rachel? Genus.
Oh no, I missed one.
And Jacob?
Species.
Species. So when we are making an organism scientific name, it's made of the genus and the species together. That's what the scientific name is, genus and species. So let's list where humans are in this. So for humans, our domain is called eukarya. It's all the organisms basically that have a nucleus in their cells.
There should be a place in the world.
Our kingdom, what is our kingdom?
Animals.
Animals. Our phylum is all of the animals with backbones. It's called chordate. Think like spinal cord.
Ew.
Within the vertebrates, what's our class?
Mammal.
Mammals. Okay, from here on out, you probably don't know. The order, it's the order that also includes apes and monkeys. You know what those are called?
Primates.
Yeah, primates.
Primate.
And then the family that humans belong to is called Hominidae. And then genus is Homo. Species is,
Human. No, wait, no, the Homo sapiens.
yeah, sapiens. And again, so like we said earlier, the name of the human species is Homo sapiens. It comes from the genus and the species.
Wait, so did apes and like gorillas actually like were like did we come from?
Well, what we say is we have a common ancestor.
Is that it?
So a common ancestor, that somewhere in evolutionary history, there's a common ancestor of other apes and humans.
So we're really
Some
monkeys?
No, no, because we're different from apes and monkeys now.
We've got
But in the past, there was a common ancestor.
But like if you change when it's like half
It's not really happening. All right, so if we look at some examples, we have those bears back again. The panda, the polar bear, and the grizzly bear. Also, listed is their, all right guys, listen, their scientific name. So if we look at these bears, which two are closely related? More closely related than the others? Joey?
The grizzly and the polar,
Okay, why do you say that?
because they're like one color, and the panda is like
Okay,
different
so
color.
you're looking at what they look like. What's another way? You're correct, those are the most closely related, but there's something else that will tell you that, Anna?
Pandas look a little different than polar bears and grizzly bears.
Okay, but besides what they look like,
I know.
Jacob?
No wait, no, grizzly and polar bears are carnivores. Pandas eat like.
Okay, all right, now you're going on sort of their behavior, Maggie?
Grizzly bears and polar bears like live in colder weather and die.
All right,
Oh my god.
Chris?
Please.
They both start with Ursus.
Yes,
Oh.
they are the same genus, Ursus.
Oh, I didn't see
I was
that.
gonna say that.
They are in the same genus, whereas the panda is in a different genus. Now, they're all in the same family. They're all in the Ursidae bear family, but the panda is in one genus. The polar bear and grizzly bear are in a separate genus. The last thing to talk about here is when we're writing out these names, these scientific names in Latin, the binomial names, we have to follow a couple rules. First off, okay, the scientific name is the genus and the species. What can you tell me about how we capitalize the words based on this example?
Capitalize genus, not species.
You capitalize the genus, everything else is lowercase-ified. Yes.
Lowercase.
Yes, I made up that word.
Lowercase.
So I also trademarked it, so if you use it, you owe a quarter for each use. It goes on the bill we send you at the end of school year. What's that?
Just like science.
Yeah, like all those, I've invented many words.
Science.
Lowercase phi,
Lowercase phi.
aquadynamic,
Lowercase phi,
Science dynamic.
yeah, it's like aerodynamic, you know what aerodynamic means?
Yeah.
But it's in the water, it's hydrodynamic.
So it's like beef.
Alright, anyway, so we capitalize the first letter of genus and lowercase phi, the species name.
You didn't capitalize the first letter of genus.
Where?
Right when you
Ursus?
said the first
Ursus.
letter.
No, in the second
No,
one.
in the
Yeah.
second bullet. Second rule, first letter of genus is capitalized, you didn't capitalize genus.
No, when we're writing a scientific name, we capitalize the first word.
Oh,
You thought it too.
no, you
And
didn't. Yes, you did.
third is because these are in another language, we either italicize them. If you're writing on a computer, you can italicize it, you know, with that tilted letter I icon. Or if you're writing it by hand, you don't have to try to write in italics, you can just underline it.